Ahead of the November 6th Anambra State governorship election, the candidate of the Young Progressives Party, Senator Ubah, is challenging Professor Charles Soludo of the All Progressives Grand Alliance to a public debate. Ubah, who represents Anambra South in the upper chamber of the National Assembly, refers to a recent statement made by Soludo that Anambra is too sophisticated for a school certificate holder to aspire to govern. According to Ubah, both aspirants should put their manifestos in front of the public and let the public decide their preferred candidate, whose agenda resonates with the layman and electorate.
Well, let's bring in our Rise News analyst, Dr. AMADI, who joins us now to take a look at this proposal, really, is what we will call it, because it hasn't been accepted, at least for now. Well, let's look at this culture of debate. For governors, it's not the first time we're seeing this really happen, if truly this is going to go ahead. But this culture of debate, how far-reaching is it, a culture in Nigeria, in terms of how we choose our leaders?
Well, first, it's not that far-reaching, like you observed. We've seen that in the presidential election. Again, not always thorough. Sometimes some candidates refuse to participate. But again, the context of this is the sense in which...
can it be institutionalized? Sorry.
Sure, it can be, like in the US, it can be a part of the electoral process. If, for example, INEC or the Electoral Act says this particular office must have this debate. But even at the US, you can opt out, but it has consequence because people expect that you will debate. But again, back to the issue in the Anambra is a sense in which Professor Soludo thinks that Anambra is sophisticated enough that people who have, in his view, WAEC and ideas...
Basic education.
Basic education. Ideas that people fill their form. Some people who probably have PhDs or claim to have PhDs. For example, the Madoka is a doctor, Ubah answers doctor, and they don't put in those qualifications, they put work. Some people have argued that it's because of some of the restrictions, Supreme Court decisions and certificates, if you don't have them readily available. So you put the safest option. But the question is, yes, Anambra is one of the leading countries in this country in terms of human capital. So do we need a level of education for effective governance? And what I think Ubah has done is respond very, very well. He says, look, this is beyond what they call grammatical, theoretical politics. But again, the critical thing is who understands the people's problem and who provides better solutions, options for solving them. That's what the debate should be able to bring out. So he's saying, look, well, even though I have a LLB, I just got my LLB, but beyond that, it's about who understands the people. And again, let's not forget, if you look at John Major, he didn't have a degree. Many people in the world, many great leaders didn't have degrees. And there's no correlation exactly between being the smartest guy and the best leader. Theories of governance, even Oxford professor Brown Archie, they said, look, different leaders come with different, some are transformative leaders, some are redefining. The context matters too. So for example, at a point in history, you might need a leader who is intellectually sound to pioneer a new way. But you might need a leader who is managerial, who keeps things working. So I think this is very, very good for a number of people. So they sit back and say, look, after Obiano, going by what we know about ourselves, some of the gaps we see in terms of whether infrastructure development, whether in terms of value orientation, whether in terms of industrialization, who has the better plan? Who has the better pedigree? So for all these candidates, give it to them. Some are sophisticated intellectually, some come with a lot of experience from business, from human management, some come from a lot of experience from even politics. So you can't just foreclose that these candidates who come from diverse experience do not have enough of what it takes to govern. It depends on the context and the expectation and the issue they're going to deal with.
I was just going to say, looking at Anambra State particularly, it's more of an industrial state,
comparative advantage.
Yes, comparative advantage really. When you look at Nnewi, for example, one would think that the candidates would be talking about the industrialization to the extent of Anambra becoming, one of the Asian tigers, if not the whole Southeast.
Well, but that's really the point here. So Soludo has talked about Taiwan, Dubai, Singapore model. Ubah, in his own plan, talks about industrialization. Madoka talks about the same thing. Everybody claims base, even Ubah, who probably doesn't have that much visibility in terms of economics or management. He has experience, talks about the same thing. But the question is it's enough to say, look, I'm going to industrialize. What's the plan? And I think that's the merit of what Ifeanyi is saying. And I think Soludo camp takes it. So we come and say, okay, show us how you're going to do that. Because really, look at Anambra, for example. Illustration is not about hardware, it's also about software. It's about value systems. It's about how you deal with the conflicts. Anambra has a crisis now of too much individualism, trumping collective well-being. So you need a leader who can bring people together, who can also reduce that very corrosive competition and enhance collaboration and consensus building. So whereas we can all agree that the future for Anambra is industrialization, the question is who can best deliver it? Who has a mix of hardware, software? Who has a mix of leadership issues? How do you mobilize the people? So I think what Ubah has done is to respond well to Soludo and say, look, I agree, this is not time for brickbat and vitriol. This is time now for us to showcase to the people. And Soludo is sophisticated enough to accept it. So
of course,
we should
he's
sit
a
back
professor
and watch
of economics,
a big
really.
debate around Anambra.
Well, I feel like it will be a good idea because honestly, like you have said, Anambra has so much potential, so we need to know what these candidates are bringing to the table before decisions are made. But let's look at the political side ahead of that all-important November 6th election. Of course, ABGA is the party to beat. They do have the present governor. Yeah. But if you look at other parties right now, yes, PDP is excluded from the list, but I know that INEC has an updated version that would come up sometime in October. The party politics that we have seen right now going into the polls, the parties, do you think they're really ready to really challenge ABGA? Who on its own equally has its own internal crisis, which some are saying might come back and bite them if care's not taking.
The problem is that Anambra has become by default ABGA state, starting from P2B, which was also partly a crisis in PDP that enabled that to happen, and to the good of Anambra people. People can argue that Ubah has not been as outstanding as Obi, depending on what parameters they are looking. The ABGA has also got into a lot of crisis. In fact, ABGA has been a party in crisis from day one. So, but it's still the incumbent. And so Soludo is also a strong candidate in terms of some consensus around what he can bring to the table. But look, PDP is a strong party in Anambra. It has strong people, it has strong grassroots support. APC is the party in the federal government, very quickly recruiting top heads in Anambra, and the others have moved in, a lot of people have crossed in. Kisil Moalo, Doda Moalo is there, who is in Niwasa. So these parties are evenly kind of constituted, they are strong enough. The question is, who, Anambra has a way to do that, who will the elites who are not partisan support? In the run-up to Ubah's second term, there was a sense in which they resented, it seems, the P2B's, kind of bringing hegemony. And they all accepted Obiano in spite of some shortcomings. What would Anambra leaders say this time around? Are they going to say we really need an egghead? Are they going to say we want the person who has grassroots support? So several factors. Or
are they going to be pigeonholed because the people are not really?
Basically,
people have not started speaking.
Exactly. Yet. So basically, you're going to see either continuity. ABGA is strong, APC is strong, PDP is very, very strong. So what we're going to see is a mixture of party structure, individual, and who has a better narrative and grassroots hold. Don't forget, money will play a role, structure will play a role.
like always. Thanks very much, Dr. Sam AMADI.